Chicago Cubs beat writers Sahadev Sharma and Patrick Mooney released their latest video today about the possibility of the Cubs trading for Kyle Tucker, and I'm going to react to some of their comments and give my opinion about this potential trade. Let's get started.
I thought it was interesting, Sahadev, you asked GM Carter Hawkins last night about the possibility of acquiring a rental player, and he was pretty direct. I mean, he said absolutely.
Okay, on this first point here they made about Jed Hoyer saying he'd be open to just a rental, meaning he'd do this trade for Tucker and only keep him for the 1 year left of control, let me just say that, if that's what the Cubs are planning on doing, I hate it. Don't even bother making this trade unless you plan on keeping Tucker around for the long haul. Yes, he's going to be able to command a huge contract on the open market, and yes, I believe he's worth it.
Maybe Kyle Tucker isn't a superstar in the traditional sense of that word, right? Like he's not on the cover of video games. He's not, he doesn't garner a lot of headlines. Go look at the numbers. The guy is a superstar. He's a superstar offensive player. There are three players that I put at the upper tier when it comes to offense, and it's Juan Soto, Shohei Ohtani, and Aaron Judge. Right there in that next tier is Kyle Tucker with names like Mookie Betts and Yordan Alvarez and Jose Ramirez. That's the type of player he is.
Here, Sahadev talks about the tiers of players, and he puts Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, and Ohtani in the first tier, while putting Tucker in the second tier. Now, are you ready for my controversial opinion? I would much rather have Kyle Tucker in my lineup than Aaron Judge, and here's why. If we take a side-by-side look at their stats, it's clearly obvious that Judge has generated more WAR than Tucker over the past few seasons. But this is largely based on Judge's power. And his power, and overall hitting ability, tends to disappear when it's needed most, like in the playoffs. Now, I appreciate the WAR stat, but in cases like this is where it tends to lose me, because I think Tucker is more valuable than Judge. Tucker doesn't have Judge's power, but he walks almost as much as Judge, strikes out a whole lot less than Judge, which is super important, especially in the Cubs lineup that has way too much swing and miss in it. And overall, Tucker's base running over his career has been a net positive, while Judge's has been a net negative. Both of them have a so-so defensive history. But the most important reason I think Tucker is more valuable. Let me show you the clutch stat. For those that don't know, Fangraphs has a clutch stat. As we can see here, the clutch stat measures how much better or worse a player does in high leverage situations than he would have done in a context-neutral environment. Now, there are very few players that are consistently good or bad every year in this clutch category, but taking a look at their careers to date, we can see that Tucker has generated an overall positive clutch, while Judge has generated an overall negative one. My barometer for comparing hitters is as follows. Game 7 of the World Series, bottom of the ninth, tie game with 2 outs and a guy on third for my team. Which of the two hitters would I want at the plate? I would take Tucker 10 times out of 10 over Judge in this situation. Judge can rack up all these home runs during the regular season when the Yankees are up 7-1 in the 8th inning and he's facing an opposing team's long man. But when you need him most, the clutch stat says most of the time, he won't be there. So obviously, I am all in favor of doing the Tucker trade, with the caveat that the Cubs keep him long term. And this is where the problem lies, because I do think Hoyer is pursuing this just as a 1 year rental, with no plans to keep him long term. The reason being that, as I've said in past videos, the Cubs simply do not take on more than one, what they consider to be, big contract at a time. Swanson is currently their one big contract, and they will not do any more while he's here. Just off the top of my head, Tucker, with another good season, will probably be able to command somewhere in the range of $300 to $400 million in a new deal, and for the life of me, I just do not see the Cubs paying that out to anyone. Not to mention that signing Tucker still does not address the Cubs' pitching problems, which I covered in my last video about Garrett Crochet. So I don't know what else Hoyer has up his sleeve, but he is quoted as saying that the rest of this offseason will consist of only trades and not free agent signings to build the Cubs roster. I guess we can only sit back and wait for things to unfold.